Alright, in this video I'd like to do another example of traversing an array with this general case, right? 0 up to the length of the array. This is a really important concept, so I want to make sure we get it. And I wanted to do something a little more complex where we've got an array of objects. So I want to go back to this bubbles example we got, right? Where we had those 3 bubbles that are randomly moving around. So what I want to start with here, we'll get to the traversing in a second, because that's where we want to do it here. Actually, let's do that first. Let's add a couple more bubbles here. I'm just going to copy and paste this. And we can do, I don't know, let's just do a 175, 100, radius of 25, color of orange maybe. Let's do one more here. How about 370, 250 with a radius of 10, a small one, and purple. Okay, so we've added just 2 colors, but you can see already, okay, this is kind of annoying. I've got to go here, copy and paste 3 and 4, and then copy and paste 3 and 4, and this gets pretty repetitive. Where'd that one go? There it is. That orange one starts high. Okay, so like I said, the way that we can do this is we can traverse, right? Instead of going bubbles 0, bubbles 1, bubbles 2, bubbles 3, bubbles 4, let's just use a loop. I use I usually to stand for index. We want to start at 0. I want I less than 5, but again, let's not use 5, because what if I add bubbles or delete some bubbles? Then this loop won't work anymore. So we want to use, what did I call it? Bubbles. I want to use bubbles.length, right? And when we use that length property, then we can, doesn't matter, right? It'll always loop through however many bubbles there are, and then we want to increase by 1. So in here, we're going to put that move bubbles, and we change that to I. And then I can delete all of these. And then let's just copy and paste this into my draw bubbles. And instead of move bubble, we call the draw bubble function. Now, in this example, I usually like to keep the logic and the drawing separate. Well, first of all, let's make sure this works. Yeah, that looks good. We got that orange one keeps disappearing, but we're good. Okay. I like to keep my logic and my drawing separate, and in more complex problems, you sometimes want that when you're dealing with collision and stuff, and you got to figure out, am I removing bubbles before I draw them? But in this case here, I think we could simplify this. We're not doing any collision detection or any logic, so we can actually just have one loop, and in that loop we're going to move the bubble, and then we're going to draw the bubble. Okay, save that. And it's good. Now, what's cool about this is now let's go back to where we create this thing, because I don't like that. Look at how repetitive this is. Wouldn't it be cool if I could do something like we did with loops, where I'm going to create a bunch of random bubbles? Okay, so let's delete all of these, and we're just going to have an empty array. So now there's no bubbles, right? It's an empty array. But once we add things to this array, we'll loop through the length of the array from 0 to the length and move and draw them. So what I'm going to suggest is let's do a loop for let n be 1, n is less than or equal to 20, n plus plus. We're going to loop 20 times. And I want to go bubbles.push. And I want to push an object, right? And my bubble objects needed an X property. Now I have my random library, so I can use these random functions here. So let's go, oh dear, where'd I go? Okay. Let's go, X is going to be a random integer between 0 and canvas.width. Comma, y is going to be a random integer between 0 and canvas dot height, r, okay, r is going to be a random integer between, I don't know, how smallest one maybe 15, biggest one 50. And then color is going to be that random RGB function, which doesn't take any arguments. Okay, so we're going to loop and we're going to push this object. And this object will have X, Y, R, and color properties, and they'll be assigned random things. So now, ta-da! Right, if we do colors, no, bubbles, sorry. Bubbles, right, we've got 20 objects. Awesome. And of course, if we want more, we just change this to more. From 1 to 50. We've got 50 bubbles. Awesome. Okay. Now again, we could clean this up a little bit. Let's take this object that we created, and if we had a function called new bubble, or called random bubble, we could define that function down here, function random bubble, and it will return this object. So again, just getting used to having functions that do specific jobs. The job of this function is to create this random object and return it, and that just makes this code a lot neater, right? The job here is to create an empty array, loop however many times you want, and push these new random bubbles into it. And that should, oops, sorry, press the wrong button, save, and it should still work. Let's go 500. Yeah, that's a lot of bubbles. Well, okay, but anyway, another example here of, here we're using the loop not to traverse the array. Here we're using the loop to just loop 500 times to populate the array, to put things into the array, right? And then here's where we actually traverse through the length of the array from 0 to the end. And then we can access bubbles at 0, bubbles 1, bubbles 2, get each individual bubble and tell each bubble to move and to draw. Okay, hope that makes sense. Take care, and we'll see you in the next video.